Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Um,
great.
Thank you so much for coming or for meeting with me. It's been on the list. We've talked about it for months, and I've just not been nurturing my YouTube channel, but now I've been motivated to have a little more time, and you're at the top of my list. So
My goodness.
I wanted to have you come in and talk to me about Alphagal.
Yes,
But right before we get into that, Jenny and I have been friends for, gosh, probably over 20 years. I was just trying to think.
forever. Yeah.
We went to the same high school, we went to college together. And then, even though we live in different counties, we're still in Maryland. We just have reconnected over the years, specifically just around health and wellness and our own health journeys. And I know that you've been sharing with me over the last year or two your own journey with this. And I'm just like, we need to get this out because there's so many people that are unaware of it. And I know me personally, just in the last couple of years, have heard or known people, even in my own family, extended family, that have alpha-gal.
Hmm.
And so it's becoming more, I think, common, right? And like when you and I were
Yes.
talking before this, you're saying even in Maryland, it's actually there are a lot
Huge.
more people, a huge,
Yeah.
right, population. So anyway, take it away. Like, what is alpha-gal?
So alpha-gal, which is technically called galactose A13 galactose, basically it's a sugar molecule, and when you're bitten by a tick or chiggers, strangely, they can basically inject that molecule, that sugar molecule, into your body, and it can trigger an immune system reaction in some people, not all people, to where they develop an allergy to basically mammal meat, beef, pork, deer, lamb, any kind of mammal meat. And it's probably one of the craziest allergies I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. So is it
Yeah.
true? Because I've heard people say anything with a hoof, but I guess it
Yeah.
expands maybe a little bit beyond that. And it's like the more that and you of course are the expert here. Like I haven't dug in as deep, but you do, and you can talk about this, like realize it's not just the animals or these animals, right? I mean,
So much more.
animal byproducts that are used in our processed foods or in foods that, products that you wouldn't even think that aren't foods that you can also react to, right?
Absolutely. I mean, even things down to hair dye. If you wear wool socks, I mean, it gets pretty crazy. I mean, I actually brought this for the interview when I was speaking to you, and this has kind of been my lifeline here. And this is, I don't know, maybe 11 pages of every single byproduct that we know of at this point that you could have an allergic reaction to if you have alpha-gal. It is such a huge learning curve. It's overwhelming at times.
Wow. And you were saying
Yeah.
even you had even like bottled water sometimes,
Bottled
like,
water. Yeah, I did. I had an allergic reaction to uh, drinking water from a plastic bottle that was manufactured with some sort of animal product in it. And I couldn't figure out why I kept reacting, because I was like, I'm eating clean, I'm drinking water. Like, what is going on here? And then I started, doing a little bit more research, and I contacted the support group, and they said, check your water bottle
wow.
and contact the company. And sure enough, I mean, toilet paper, you know,
Oh my gosh.
everything. It's crazy. The list goes on.
Okay. So that's crazy. I mean, that's like, I'm just imagining the journey of how overwhelming that is. Like, you're like, okay, I have the food checked off. It's relative, even though that's challenging too, but like relatively easy, right?
Yeah.
But then kind of looking at, wow, like look at the gelatin that's in a lot of the food products, and then you're talking about like toilet paper and things. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
It's mind blowing.
So let's back up to before you received the diagnoses. Like,
Sure.
what was life like? What were you experiencing symptom wise? What were you going from this doctor to that doctor to try to get answers? Like what?
Well, it was kind of an interesting find, because I started having symptoms shortly after the lockdown. That's kind of how I remember it. March 13th, I started doing a lot of outdoor gardening, and I was outside a lot, and I would find ticks on me, and I live on a farm, and it's not a big deal here. Well, it wasn't. And I did have a bout of where I had gotten bitten by chiggers. And so I was dealing with that as well. So I don't know which one it came from, because it's known to come from chiggers or ticks, but
which I didn't
either
know.
way,
I had only read that it had come from the Lone Star tick, right? Which is actually a specific kind of tick.
Yeah. It's got the little dot on its back. And the interesting thing about Alphagal is that it's unlike Lyme's disease, where it bites you and it has to stay latched on to its host for a certain period of time before you actually develop Lyme's disease. With Alphagal, he can bite you and be on his way 2 seconds later, and you don't even know. You never saw the tick, you never felt the bite. So that's kind of the challenging thing with Alphagal, because most people don't remember even getting bitten. So it started with I eat pretty clean for the most part. I'm just like everyone else. I do have a piece of cake here and there, but I was starting to get really bad stomach pain. It almost felt like kind of like your monthly cramps, I guess. And I just kind of ignored it. And then I started noticing it was happening at night more than any other time in the day. And it was like I would wake up in the middle of the night and just start feeling like a lot of abdominal pain. And then it progressed into, I was throwing up, had severe diarrhea, and just terrible stomach pain, where if you would just even touch my stomach, it would and I remember talking to you about it, and I was like, Jamie, I don't know what's wrong with me. And you said, and this kind of touches on the fact that everybody's Alphagal experience is so different. You said that you had a family member who had it, who was having a little bit of different symptoms than I was having. And I was like, oh, well, then it must not be Alphagal, right?
Right.
And it just kept progressing. And I guess it was about 3 months later, I kept getting sick and vomiting. And I went to an urgent care, and this was because it was in the beginning of COVID. They were testing you even if you had, an itchy eye. And then, so the doctor said, well, we're going to need to test you for COVID. That's why I had to go in there. And she was doing the exam on me, and she touched my stomach, and I winced, and I said, ow. And she said, you might want to get tested for Crohn's, or it was just some other random things. And I thought, this doesn't fit the mold. And I remember going to Ocean City with our family and ate seafood all week. And I couldn't believe how good I felt. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And I just thought, maybe my stomach issues are a thing of the past. And the second to last night we were there, my wonderful sister-in-law made beef and broccoli. And about 2 a.m., it was about 6 hours after I had eaten the beef and broccoli, I was up and I was vomiting profusely, uncontrollably vomiting. And then I got these like red circles all over my face, and it was just real itchy. I was really swollen. And that day she said to me, Jenny, maybe you have Alphagal. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to get tested. So I went to the doctor and I asked for the test, and she kind of looked at me like, how do you even know about this? And I said, let's just test it before we start going more invasive for Crohn's disease and all this other crazy stuff. So she did. And I got a call back a few days later, and she was absolutely in shock. And she said, you are never going to believe this, but you do have Alphagal. And I've never had someone ask for a test, and I've never had to tell someone that they were diagnosed with Alphagal. So I'll just keep this simple. Don't eat mammal meat and you'll be good to go. Sounds easy, right?
Wow.
Not so much.
So, and I want to say too, like, I remember when we were talking, you were trying all the things, like you were thinking, maybe there's something that's some kind of food that's triggering this, right? It wasn't,
allergy,
you weren't, yeah, it was more like, is it gluten? Is it dairy? Is it, I mean, it was, and then like we were looking at different digestive supports, right? And
yes,
so we were kind of trying to navigate what was going on. And like, I'm sure, like you and I were talking about this earlier, that once you had that diagnosis, you probably, I'm assuming, just had so many different like emotions going on, right? Because on one hand, it's like, damn, that's terrible. Like, I'm not going to be able to eat meat or mammal meat, right?
yeah.
Some of my favorite things, like, and at that point, you were probably not even thinking like of all the other things. It was just like,
I wasn't aware of it. Yeah.
But on the other hand, getting an answer, right? Like, oh, I've been trying all these things for months and finally I have an answer. So then, just taking that, what right? And kind of talk a little bit about after you received the diagnosis, like what kind of transformation then happened in you? Because I saw it. I'm sure a lot of other people saw it. I mean, you kind of, I'm sure you went through some stuff in the beginning, right? Like naturally, any of us would, but then using that knowledge to connect with other people, and like just handle that in a positive way. What happened?
Well, so I started with just eliminating the mammal meat, and I was continuing to get sick. And I thought, well, it's probably like anything else. It takes a few weeks to fully get out of your system. And I had gone to get my hair colored, and I broke out in hives so bad, and my scalp developed blisters in it, and it was awful. And I said, wait a minute, there must be more. I mean, are there animal byproducts in hair dye? I didn't know. And there are. And so that's kind of what opened my eyes to, okay, this is a much more in-depth journey than I ever expected. And I could either sink or swim, right? So I joined a support group, and that was really helpful. Although I have to say, I'm a little wary of diving so deep into these support groups, because you can kind of get yourself in this hole where you freak out and you just become your diagnoses. Right. And so basically it was a trial and error. In the beginning, it was so, I was very upset because it was everything I had ever loved had to change, and it had to change really quickly. And I remember crying a lot and was just really upset. And I didn't understand why nobody was feeling so bad for me. I mean, this was such a big life change.
Right.
And then I just started, and actually thanks to you, and with the restart class, you showed me a lot of ways to read food labels. And that was the biggest key. It is the biggest key when you are navigating the beginning stages of your diagnosis with alpha-gal, because you have to read every single ingredient, and you have to know if it has mammal byproducts. And you can do things like put an app on your phone, the vegan app, because the vegan apps are great because it's going to let you know if it's vegan or not. And then kind of what I did was, and it's cool because you can just scan the product and it says yes or no. And so basically what I followed was a vegan protocol with fins and feathers, right? So I would eat a vegan meal and add chicken to it, or seafood. And I found that was really beneficial. But I hadn't cut gluten out of my diet. And I thought, well, gluten is not a mammal byproduct. It's, and you go through this variation of, I'm just going to cut out mammal. And then you realize that dairy is strongly affecting you as well. It doesn't affect everyone who has alpha-gal, but it did me. And strangely, I developed a sensitivity to gluten. And so it's kind of like an elimination process, and it is a process, and it takes months. It really does, to fully understand. And I think once I finally was able to eliminate those triggers, I was on a healthy path. My skin cleared up. I mean, I had people saying, "Are you getting Botox? Are you, are you using a good moisturizer?" And I said, no, it's actually the foods that I was eating was causing me to have a reaction on it. And I don't even know if that was linked to Alphagal or not, but I do know that when I cut those out, I really reaped the benefits. And
one question.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't even think about this until now, but so you can have Alphagal, but still consume dairy because of some people, right?
Some people.
Because it's more of the meats
Exactly.
that cause problems, right?
For some people. So what they say
okay.
is when you eliminate all mammal meats, if you are still having reactions, start to eliminate dairy.
Okay.
And then if you're having further reactions, take out the gluten. It's kind of like that, a protocol where it's the elimination diet.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I went through. And, and I just wanted to cover all bases regardless.
Yep. And then also I remember once you did find out your diagnosis, I remember you had me, and it was a great learning experience for me too, but supplements are huge, right? So looking at the ingredients and the sourcing of even your supplements.
Yes.
There's a lot of animal byproducts in a lot of great supplements, but there's a lot of amazing supplements, but if you can't have, those types of things, you have to look closely at even the capsules.
The gelatin cap. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That was a big one. I was taking probiotics for my gut health. And I didn't realize that the probiotics that I was taking, and they were very high grade probiotics. They had the gel cap, and I was still getting sick. And and it was just, and that's when I realized even the little gel capsules for your supplements will affect you. And that's why you had actually got me on a lot of vegan supplements. And I, even to this day, I'm still taking my liquid vitamin D, and because you eliminate all of those byproducts when you're able to take the supplements that are either vegan or liquid form.
Yeah, because you really have to look at like the enzymes, right? Too, like even digestive enzymes, a lot of them are coming from animals and things, which can be really great for some people, but that's where like bio individuality comes in, right? I'm always talking about that. It's like what works for one person, it's not going to work for the next person because everybody's coming in with different needs and situations, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even just down to the point where my husband was tested for Alphagal and he tested positive and could eat a steak with no issues.
Wow.
And everybody's body reacts completely different. So Alphagal is not a cut and dry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said that you were able to join a group. Were you also through that group? And I think I remember you sharing with me that you found even in your own community, like in your county, there were other people that had Alphagal. And so you're able to, connect with other people, and then they're not feeling so alone. And you've kind of become this, I don't know, like go-to person, or is it just more about like, I can only imagine just with anything, right? Like you get a diagnosis, you feel kind of alone, especially if it's a diagnosis that's not really talked about a whole lot or not really known, even in the medical community. You're finding that
understood
that doctors or some people didn't even know what it was, right? So being able to connect with other people that have done their research and that have had it and experienced things, and then you're helping kind of those people that are new to it is pretty empowering, I'm sure.
It's huge. It really is huge. And I have to say, I've gotten a lot of my foundation from learning from you. And I've always said that Jamie's my mentor, my nutrition mentor. And one really amazing experience that I did want to note was, there was a group and it was Alphagal Recipes. And I was noticing that a lot of the recipes were like, hey, Oreos are vegan, yay. And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to go on this journey, I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to be eating Oreos. If I'm going to have to clean this diet up, let's just go all the way. You might as well. And so I started posting recipes on this site for Alphagal. And they were just completely, everything was in its natural state. And it was just really incredible recipes. I remember using a lot of coconut milk and turmeric and just ingredients.
Real food, right?
real food
Yeah.
with no label, right?
Mhm.
And I got so much feedback from that, and people were saying, this is wonderful. Could you please keep posting healthy recipes? Because if we're
Awesome.
going to do this, let's do it. And
Yeah.
and that was a really neat moment, because I thought, I could actually make a difference. And this is, maybe things that happen, like having alpha-gal diagnosis, isn't all that bad,
Mhm.
because I can learn from this, and I can teach and help others to get healthy.
Yeah,
And so it really
totally.
was. It's really the way you look at it versus, because that's your reality, is the way that you look at it. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. And I love it.
yeah.
And gosh, you could even start your own, and I'm sure you've thought about this, but like your own group, like
Alpha
real food
gal.
for alpha gal, or,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
nourish, because obviously with any, I mean, outside of even having a diagnosis, any kind of diagnosis, you want to nourish your
Sure.
body, right? You want to nourish it in a way
Absolutely.
that's going to lead it to thrive, get in those nutrients. You want healthy cells. You want to optimize digestion. You want to, balance your blood sugar and hormones. And especially when when you're dealing with something, right? You want to
Absolutely.
be on the healing side and the nourishing side of that, and like reducing inflammation. And I mean, that's amazing. And
100%.
and
Yeah.
obviously there's a need for it. Like for people, if they were like grateful that you were sharing
There's such a
those
need. and
recipes. Yeah.
and I feel like with Western medicine and with our doctors, they really don't understand it, and they send you away with a pat on the back, just stay away from mammal meat. and
Mhm.
and I feel like it's a really good opportunity to open that door to the discussion of, well, if we're going to do this, we might as well really understand how our bodies work, and a way to feed our bodies to have the best output,
Mhm.
and to eliminate other triggers that are affecting us that aren't even related to alpha gal. Inflammation,
Mhm.
things like that. And people get eczema, and they don't realize that a lot of times when they have skin reactions or dry skin or red skin, it's from the foods that we eat. So you gotta what is it, have lemons make lemonade. You just
Yeah.
really need to dive in and take this seriously.
Yeah. And you learn more too. I mean, I know for me,
Oh my
just
gosh.
connecting with other people, I mean, it's just, you just learn so much, and you try
Yeah,
different things. And like you were saying before, it's kind of trial and error, right? Like you're trying something, sometimes things don't work, try something else. And just having that feedback from people that have
yeah,
experienced it, then yeah, that's gold.
yeah.
So if somebody is having symptoms or suspecting that maybe this could be what they're dealing with, I mean, is there like a test that they can ask for? I know you did, obviously.
Yes.
So would they just go to their doctor and say, hey, I just really want to be tested for alpha gal? And then they would write the requisition, hopefully,
Yeah.
for them? Or how does it, like, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
Well, so when I was trying to figure out what was going on with me, they really wanted to push this Crohn's disease thing with me, and and I completely respected that, but at the same rate, I just didn't feel like that was it. And when I asked for the alpha gal test, my doctor, who was wonderful, she just was kind of like, what? Okay, that's usually what we give to people after everything else fails, after
Mhm.
every test comes back, negative. And it's a simple blood test.
Okay.
You can get it at a lab, and the results come back within a few days. And just ask for it. Just
Okay.
ask for it.
Yeah.
And really, I have switched over to an integrative doctor
Mhm.
who will literally be completely fine with me asking for any kind of test that I want, just to make sure that I'm not reacting to other things that I'm not aware of. So
Right.
an integrative doctor is a really good step too. They will listen, and they will get you tested right away.
Okay.
That was really helpful.
Yeah. And I know that we were talking a little bit about this before as well. I am always like just encouraging people and empowering people to be their own advocate with their doctors. And, even if their doctor is pushing back, they work for you. So you have a right to, in fact, I would even look at the language and the wording that you're using instead of asking. to be like, I want this
Yes.
test. I need
Yes.
you to write this requisition for me, or whatever it is. And it, of course, you know your audience. It depends on the relationship you have with your doctor, but you can have whatever you want, basically. I mean, when it comes to like this kind of stuff, and if the doctor will not support you, then get a new doctor.
Go somewhere else.
It's
100%.
You know, because like we were saying, just so many people, they ask for something and their doctor's like, no, it's not that. And they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, which
Well,
I don't know, like doctors are human, right? They're
sure.
not, just like we're not always right. They're not always right. And
Exactly.
no one can know everything. And obviously, right, because there were practitioners and doctors that you have had experiences with that didn't even know what it was. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Many.
you knew a lot more about it than they did, obviously.
Absolutely.
And you're not a doctor.
No, I'm not. I know
So,
I'm not.
So, I mean, you can, that's one takeaway, right? Is that don't be intimidated to ask for what you feel that you need. And
important.
They're not supportive of it, then it's okay. It's okay to find a different doctor or a different opinion, or someone that will support you, that will listen to you, right? Hear you.
100%.
Nothing. I mean, it's so important to be heard, right?
It is. And it is really important that you don't feel guilty about getting a second opinion. I think that, you are your own best advocate. And in this journey, I did learn something very interesting. I had always just agreed with what doctors had said, and I always just trusted, because they went to Harvard, they have their medical degree.
Right.
And I realized that when you're facing a very specific diagnosis, you're going to do a lot of your own research.
Mm-hmm.
And these doctors, they know a lot about everything, or a little bit about a lot of things, but they don't know a lot about a few very niche situations, diagnoses. And so I realized, I think that was one of the things where I had heard, we just don't know what's going on so many times, that I lost my faith and trusting doctors, which wasn't a good thing. You don't want to lose your faith in that, but you also need to open your eyes to the fact that if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't sit right with you, just keep searching for more and more answers, and educate yourself, and educate your doctors. If your doctors say, hey, just stay away from the beef and pork, and it's okay to say, actually, you got to stay away from all this.
Yeah, too. Totally.
And and if they're great doctors, they will be open to learning more about it as well.
Yep. That's a huge, that's a great sign, right? When they're like, wow, whoop, my earbuds fall out. When they're like, wow, I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that. Right?
Yeah.
Then you're like,
that's a good doctor.
That's a good doctor.
That's a good doctor. Yeah.
Yep. I love it. It's like, stay curious, keep asking questions, keep searching. Because that's how we learn and grow. Right.
Absolutely.
If there's any, I don't know, last word, like anything you want to share, parting words of wisdom, to people that either were recently diagnosed or people that are now thinking like, I wonder if this is what's going on with me or my loved one. Like, what would you share with them?
So I would say that there's two bits of advice. One is, like we were talking about, be your own best advocate. Do not hesitate on asking for the test. It's a simple test. My insurance covered it. Most insurances do. And if they don't, it's very inexpensive. Go for it. If you have any stomach ailments, and it's not just stomach or digestive, it could be anaphylaxis. It could be getting your skin looking dry a lot, or just itchy. There's so many different rabbit holes that you can go down, with your symptoms. So just take the test. And my second one is, when you are diagnosed with something, you can either get really sad about it, or you can say, the fact that I have this diagnosis doesn't change anything. I feel the same as I did yesterday when I didn't know what was going on with me. A diagnosis is power. It is power. It's an answer to search for ways to help your body overcome the obstacles that come along with that diagnosis. So empower yourself and don't take it as something negative. Take it as knowledge and an answer. And with that, don't sit in the room and cry and, woe is me. Make a change. And I didn't do the recipes, Oreo souffle that's vegan. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm not eating the fake cheese. I'm not eating the, vegan cheese. I'm not going to do it. And I'm just going to go all out and give my body the love it's always needed. And it has been, in all honesty, I can't say that I would take it away if I had to. I've adapted to it, and people always look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, you can't have, oh my gosh, no dairy. Oh, and I say to them, it's not a big deal. I'm okay with it. You're less okay with it than I am. And
you probably feel, I'm assuming you feel better, right?
Feel the best I've ever felt. I had one lady come up to me and she said, wow, you look great. What kind of diet are you on? And I said, well, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I said, I do have Alphagal, so I have to, watch these kinds of foods. And she said, I wish there was a shot I could get to give me Alphagal. And I thought about it and I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe some people need that restriction of, if you're going to eat dairy, you're going to be sick for 2 straight days, to cut that out of their diet. But it really, if you've gone a few weeks with eliminating some of these triggers, you will feel 1,000 times better. Even your brain works better. I mean, just cognitively and physically, and I have more energy, with my kids and my family, because I can't even be around certain fumes. Because I do react. My family can't even have it in the house. We can't have it in the house. And so we've all adapted a new lifestyle, and my husband lost weight and he feels great. And, get as many foods as you can in their natural state so that you don't have to use the app all the time to find out if it's vegan or not. And, you'll notice a big difference and a big shift.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Okay. Yeah. And I was just going to say, and you nailed it so not only, are you avoiding the foods that are causing you to flare up, but you also are focusing on a real food, nutrient dense diet in general.
Great.
So you're still eating the meats that you can, you're still eating seafood, and you're getting in a variety of veggies, real whole foods, good, healthy fats. So I was just thinking, because it is possible for somebody to get the diagnoses, cut out those foods, but also eat not a very, nutrient dense, like eating a lot of the processed foods, for example. So, I mean, I wanted to throw that out because I think you're like the deal. I mean, you are looking at all the different ways to support your body, not just what you have to leave out. So that I'm sure plays a big role in how you feel as well. Like just kind of, and you've been over the last few years, even before your diagnoses, really focusing on learning about nutrients and, optimizing your digestion and like just making sure you have access to the nutrients in the foods that you're eating and hydrating and all of those things, reducing stress, which is like food related. So that's amazing. And I love that you are feeling the best that you've ever felt, and that keeps you motivated, right? To like continue.
And my family's the healthiest that they've ever been. And, if you have Alphagal, cry for a few hours, it's okay. And then get up and make a commitment to make a lifestyle change, because if you're halfway there now, you've had to eliminate so many things, just go all the way and do what's best for your body, because you'll reap so many benefits. And I don't know that if somebody told me tomorrow, hey, you no longer have Alphagal, I don't need the stuff that I cut out. I don't want it anymore. I don't need it. I don't want it. The sugar and all of that. Just feeling good is just so superior to any kind of cheesecake or whatever you're craving, which is okay to have once in a while.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. But just really pivot off of that and
think of the big picture,
that,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna, I'm sure you'll agree with me, but like, so you gave 2 great pieces of advice. Would a third piece of advice be to find your people? Like connect with people that are kind
it
of
is.
experiencing the same things, right? I don't know.
Yes, it is crucial to find your people. And one of the things that I think helps me, and I think helps a lot of people in all facets, is when you're in a position to teach, to educate people, you learn in the process. You learn, you become a better person, you become more knowledgeable, and it feels good. I mean, we all have to say, yeah, it feels good to give advice to somebody, good sound advice. And we all love to give advice, right? About things that we're passionate about. And so if you can find your people, and if you find someone who just had their diagnosis, pick them up and educate them and help them through that journey, because it is very isolating. It does. You feel alone because you can't even eat at a restaurant. I mean, I pack my Yeti. I mean, every day I have my cooler and I go everywhere with it. And, you know, it's weird to other people. And so you feel alone, but at the same rate, if you can help someone else through that journey, it will not only benefit them, but it will benefit you, because you'll become a lot more knowledgeable.
Yeah. And just, and I think, and even in past experiences with me, and I'm sure you'll agree too, like when you do feel alone in any kind of situation, knowing like, and connecting with someone else that is feeling that or experiencing that too, it's powerful, and you feel better and you don't feel as alone. And so, yeah, just like you said, get it out. If you need a few days to like process those feelings of grief, like that's lean into it. That's so natural to do, but definitely try to find others that are, because there are others, like
so many,
right? There are others experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing, and they're probably waiting to connect with you too. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, find your tribe and help each other through it. It's a journey. It certainly is, but it's actually a journey I don't regret. I mean, I don't know that I would change it at this point. Yeah. 2 years ago when I found out, in sobbing, I would have said, take this away. But, looking back, hindsight, there was a purpose to it. And I think if you can find that purpose and help other people and yourself and your family, it makes it worth it. Right.
Yeah. I love that mindset. I love it. Thank you so much. And, we'll be in touch. And if anyone has any questions for Jenni, you can either comment below. I'm sure she'd be happy to share some resources, maybe even some groups or like websites out there that are helpful. I can even put some in the notes if you have any, Jenni, and you want to send them to me. I do. So thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye.